Hey everybody, welcome back to the Be Smart podcast. Hanging out here with all of us Beehooligans, bunch of fat rascals is about what we've been mounting to. Keeping bees and keeping busy and everything like that. We've got a short crew today. A couple of other fellas out and about getting things done and making bee stuff happen. So today you guys are left with and that may not be a good thing if it goes its own way. You got Mr. Yappy over there.
Howdy do, everybody.
Hey, we got Mr. Antnee down there.
Yep, just out sitting on the water.
There it is. And
it's a beautiful day in Nebraska.
South Omaha. So
no, actually, I'm in Bennington.
You're in Bennington. I'm in South Omaha. I'm in the best place in the world.
Hey, no matter where you're at, Tony, you're in South Omaha.
You got that right. I bring it with me everywhere I go. Anyway, so today we had sort of an ish episode. We're kind of talking a little bit about hive management ish stuff. Kind of a hodgepodge of different things we've had different ideas and questions and comments about. I know I've had a few things pop up and that I've been answering questions about, is it time for this or that, or what are we doing in the hive? I've had people asking about, I know Yappy on you got like 1,000 Facebook groups and stuff like that. So I'm sure you've been getting a lot of the same questions about timing, when to add new boxes and that kind of stuff. Seems to be the question of the time for around these parts anywhere where I'm at. Everybody wants to know, when do I put on my supers?
General rule that I've always gone by, and you're talking depending on, is it a new swarm or is it a 1-2-year-old hive? But the general consensus across the boards is that you kind of do an inspection, and when you get about 8 frames drawn of comb, better be adding that next one up. So that way you're not overtaxing the bees with so much space that they actually don't get anything done because you've got too little bees covering everything. Or if you get in there too late and you don't keep up with the that 7th to 8th frame, and they are drawing mad and they run out of space to draw, then you end up with swarming issues. So the general consensus is the 7 to 8 frames drawn, and then add the next.
Yeah. Well, and let me relate that to percentages. And the only reason I want to do that is because I know I work with a lot of people who get into non-traditional hives. And the nice thing about relating things to Langstroth, especially 10-frame Langstroths, is because you're dealing with the 10 base setup, you can translate that easily into percentages. So you're talking 70 to 80% of the frames being full, and then you add more. And when you're talking about, say, a horizontal hive or a 5-framer or an 8-framer or whatever, it's not as easy just to say 7 or 8. They may not have 8 yet or, in one box or whatever, but still you're looking at about, and I tell people really roughly 75, 80% of, so, if you've got 5 frames in the box, like I run 5-frame boxes, and I'm going to look for 3.5, kind of like, the insides of, the 2 outer, frames might be started on, but not full. That's when it's time to add, that second box or third or fourth box or whatever. But it, because not everybody's running that, that 10-frame system. So they get confused with, well, I know over here with my buddy's hive, he gets, a 10-frame hive and he's 7 or 8 frame, full, and they're at another box, but I don't run that. They've got a horizontal top bar hive where, they've got 30 bars across the top, and they're trying to equate it to a Langstroth because that's where they started from. So they're trying to get an idea of how many, if they start, how many bars do I add at first? Do I keep all of them in? Do I just put 10 with a backboard behind the 10 and then add more? There's different ways people manage that. So I like to try to find ways for people to get a better general idea of, it doesn't have to just be based on 10 frames, but a general, like a percentage, like I said, look for so many out of, the total.
Right. I used to tell people that I see people that turn around, they'd go and they'd have their hive set up, the brand new beekeepers. They went and spent all that chump change on buying the double deeps with 2 mediums and all the frames and painted it up, brand new suit, man. They were right on top of it. They said, okay, I'm waiting for my bees. But they had the hive set up out in the backyard so they could look at it with that pure anticipation of, I know I'm going to have bees soon. I love those people. But they don't realize that when you get the bees, you can't leave all that space on there. And the conversation was coming up and then understanding why. And I said, think about this. If I hand you a shovel and I say, dig me a hole to plant a tree, you can see the end of the job. Okay? The size of the hole, it's not overtaxing you mentally. But if I hand you that same shovel and I say, dig me a lake, you cannot fathom the end of that job because you just know that day after day after day, you're going to dig a hole and you just don't see the end in sight. And it's kind of, you spread yourself too thin on even where you're digging. And it's the same thing with the bees. In a management thought process, it's a space. Well, I hate to say management again, but you're managing that space. And if you give them too much, you spread the workforce too thin to have to do too much at one time, and there's no organization.
Exactly. And this is something I use. Now, the term I use is that as a beekeeper, we're managing a population to space ratio. I think a long number of episodes, we were kind of talking about something along the lines where I was, people were saying, well, how many frames of eggs or how many frames of bees with bees on them, this and that. And my whole thing is, it's that population to space ratio. People can say, well, what's a good population for, what makes it a strong colony? What makes it a weak colony or this, that? And really it boils down to population to space available. If they have a fistful of bees, a pound and a half, 3,000 bees or so, and they've got 3 full boxes up above them. That's way too much space because the population is not enough to effectively manage all the different tasks they have to do and get it all done, appropriately. But if you stick them all in a nuke box, all of a sudden they have more bees to cover less space, so they become more efficient. They don't have to expend the resources doing, so much so spread out. Like you were just talking about, they can see the end, or they've got a more controllable thing for them to work. And I think that's one of the big things for a lot of people that they don't stop to think about is, you're overwhelming the bees because, when you put too much space on them, and at the same time, if you want to be productive as a beekeeper and, produce something like honey or this and that, and you're talking about adding more space, bees are going to draw more comb, or they're going to run out of space because that's what they do is they fill it all up. And then they're going to say, well, not enough. Bye.
Yeah. Well, one of the other curveball considerations, and I don't know where this is going to fit in if we need to talk about it yet, but you got to consider your space versus the flow ratio also.
Timing is everything.
You can, there's a lot of new beekeepers right now that are seeing for the first time bearding. Okay, now those that are listening that are in the South, across Texas all the way over through to Georgia, South Carolina, the flows right now are pretty much nil. There's the wildflowers that are out there, but our heaviest flow is already done. So you're starting to see a lot of bored bees hanging out on the front. Well, this would a lot of the new beekeepers are getting scared and they think that, oh no, my bees are going to swarm. Hey, I got a really funny story, curveball. Do you know why bees beard? Do you know why bees beard on the front, or not beard, but they washboard? I have literally, honestly, I have found the absolute reason why bees washboard.
Enlighten us.
Consider the fact that each hive is its own little system, right? But they are all of the same, collective. They're bees. Well, what they are is they're their own little tribe. And at the end of the flow, when things are pretty much done and now they've got nothing to do, what they're doing is actually the dance of harvest. They are thanking the flower gods for being for such a bountiful harvest, and they are on the front of the hive doing the harvest dance.
It's a ceremonial. It's a ceremonial gratitude thing.
Yes. They're not. It's not. The Indians used to do rain dances. Well, the bees are actually doing the nectar dance. Okay, they're celebrating the harvest. It's okay. We've solved this mystery of what it actually is, and that's what it is right there. So you write that one down. That's state law right there, dude.
It's recorded for posterity right here on the show. I always chalked it up to basically it was the bee version of line dancing. They got some little mental music going on, and they're just down there together getting down because they're bored. But the ceremonial nectar dance is now a contender.
There you go. Well, anyway, all right. There's a side note. I do not want you getting off topic. We're talking about hive management, so let's get back to that.
I'll tell you what, though. It's interesting because people start to do some crazy things to their hives when they see stuff like that. They start thinking, well, I got to start manipulating. I got to start doing this and that. So it does fit in. But when you see bees doing the bearding in the water or the waterboarding, I'll tell you, I must be watching too much news lately. Oh my goodness!
I'll tell you. Listen. That is funny because I saw my bees waterboarding a wasp one day, wanting to know where they were taking all their nectar. That's all I'm saying.
Where'd you take it? Where is it?
Oh man!
What a day. Okay. Well, tell you what, waterboarding brings me to another thing that's related to management here. Because I swear, if I have one more person get a hold of me wanting to know about the whole kerfuffle with some people getting out there condemning no treatment beekeeping and whatnot as the whole reason that bees are failing. We got a lot of things in the news lately where it's the no treatment people's fault that the bees are this and that, and I mean, it's getting down to the point where I think some folks are going to start waterboarding some of we're going to see some beekeepers disappear and end up in somebody's basement, take it back. I don't know. It's getting crazy. And I mean, I understand, people they get fiercely, caught up in the ways they do things. And, we have our bee heroes, I've always said I've been a big fan, follower, admirer, whatever of Randy Oliver, not to the point where I won't disagree with him on some, but I'm usually willing to give, if it comes from Randy, I'm usually willing to give him the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. We have some people though, boy, I tell you, I've heard some near mythic, responses about, well, hey, this is this person. And well, if they said it, then that's it, and how dare you say otherwise? And, we've got people that are in those visible positions out here and they're making statements that are, well, no treatment is bad and no people who do no treatment are the reason the bees are failing. And I think that's a little irresponsible because just saying no treatment, there's a lot of different ways people interpret and define no treatment. So, as no treatment, are you referring to not applying chemicals as no treatment? Are you referring to people who just, go to that whole opposite extreme and just say, hey, I have bees in a box and I don't do anything with them. That would be no treatment as well, to them. So, without actually getting and being more specific to just get out there and say it's no treatment beekeeping's fault, I think is a little irresponsible and a little kind of not the best way to communicate that or have that discussion, you know. And people are just getting outright irate. I have seen blown out, you know, arguments. You'd think it was a political discussion, you know, happen on some of these groups with that whole topic.
Well, I'm going to say that I give each beekeeper all the respect in the world for making a decision, because whether you're a brand new beekeeper, you've been doing this for 5 years, you have set forth a plan in a direction that you want to try to go in. Now, whether or not you keep up with it or not is completely up to you, and whether you are successful in it is how you adapt to what you're seeing. So if let's say John or Mary out there has decided that this was their first year beekeeping, and they want to follow the path of no treatments, okay? I respect that. But are you individually drop a phone. Are you individually understanding how to manage that colony or colonies in other ways to deal with the fact that you are not using some form or fashion of a treatment? Now, depending on which Facebook group you get into, oxalic acid is a treatment, but one person will say it's organic, where another person will say it's chemical. Then you've got a group that'll turn around and say, you know, if you do anything manipulating your hive, it's a treatment, and that is not natural. So we've got all kind of different point of views, and it's hard for said first-year beekeeper, maybe second-year beekeeper, to go down the road and say, I want to be a treatment-free person. I respect it. But if you don't understand what that truly means, other than the fact of saying, I'm not going to put this in my hive, well, you're going in the wrong direction in my book, because you don't really understand what you have to do to counteract the fact that you're not doing this. Right.
Well, see, and I think that's where we got to get that terminology straightened out, you know, be more specific in what we're saying. Because when we're talking about, you know, say a manipulation versus a treatment, you know, manipulation is when you're moving frames around, you're moving boxes. Say you under super a box, you know, that's a hive manipulation. You move frames, you take one frame or two frames and you swap them from, you know, box A to box B or whatever. You're doing different things. You're pulling drone comb out. You're doing little things with the equipment. Those are all called manipulations. Treatments would be doing something according to, now this is the way I work, and when I work with people, you know, I very rarely say no treatment. I always get a little bit more specific, because that way people understand there's more than one way to deal with hive. And this is where we talk about things like integrated pest management as it pertains to beekeeping, because you can use integrated pest management control methods and processes to help prevent and avoid the need for certain chemicals. So say you don't want to use any toxic pesticides in your hives, you know, for miticides or anything like that, antibiotics, things like that. So you want to use an IPM plan that will help you implement a number of various types of other control methods, like, you know, physical, environmental, biological controls, that you don't just put one in at a time. You're using all three kinds of controls at once, so that by doing all of that at one time simultaneously, it may be enough that the bees don't need any further assistance beyond that. They don't need any chemical inserted or a miticide treatment or anything like that. That can help. It can go a long way. But I think without being more specific as to saying this is the difference between, you know, just somebody taking in and putting in a frame of, you know, drone foundation, you know, to make a drone frame, because pulling drone brood is one good way of non-chemical way of helping to alleviate that mite, or the mite population for bees, you know. It's technically a manipulation. You're handling equipment, versus a treatment where you're inserting something in in terms of for them to eat or consume or, affect them that way directly. And again, I come from a very technical background, a pest management technician. So that's the terminology that I come from, and the background that I come from when I started applying to all of this is to be more specific and to break down, these things. It's not just one treatment covers it all. There's certain, this controls this to this affects this to that. And I think without having that more specific discussion, we just start using these terms, no treatment or treatment, as an all or none, it's what's called a false dichotomy, because there are things that don't fit just between those two topics.
Right. Hey, curveball, timeout. Hi, Schawee.
Hey,
he's here.
Schawee showed up.
No way, I missed it.
I was on the road when my phone went off, and I'm like, everything's at the house, so I'm not getting on until I get at the house.
I hear you. Well, we're glad you snuck in, man.
Yeah, I snuck in.
It's all right. Where you been at? What you been doing?
It's pouring now, rain here. It's going to be a washout today, but I went to the store, had to pick up some stuff for the shop, and then I'm going in the shop and work in the shop.
Cool deal. Well, perfect opportunity. We're talking this episode. We're kind of loosely hanging on about hive management stuff. We're talking, about different things that people, I think we were talking about, when to add boxes, supers and stuff. And now I brought up the whole thing where we got some folks out there who are talking about the no treatment beekeepers are the problem with the bees. And, it's getting to be a ruckus in some of these online groups because they're using such vague general language to say, it's this or that. And it's like, well, wait a minute. There are people who are not using pesticides like miticides or antibiotics, but they consider themselves responsible by using other control methods. They're taking exception to that. They're saying, wait a minute, I do a pretty good job without using, toxic pesticides. Don't lay it all on my feet. And there's arguments, good and bad, I think, on both sides to be made. But I think with just offering up this real vague language of treatment or no treatment, that does the whole discussion a disservice, and you just get more, like I think we were talking about, a political discussion versus an actual, how to address, beekeeping management kind of things.
Yeah.
Schawee, you got a new bird in the house or something?
I know.
No.
Here's some squawking back there, man.
Yeah, I hear some squawking.
Well, a raccoon is in a cage, and she heard me come in, and I never fed her breakfast yet. She's ready.
So squawking is screeching.
And that's what you hear, her screaming at me.
Oh boy!
What kind of bird is it?
God.
That was a call. She's calling me, and then when I don't answer her, then she screams.
So it's kind of like being married all over again.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
I hear you.
All right. Well, you know what, man? I tell you, we could actually. We're kind of short selling ourselves because I could get into a very long, drawn out conversation about. And Tony, you and I have talked about this before about the decision to be treatment free or to treat, and I kind of went down the road a few years ago with saying, why can't you be both? Treatment free is the goal. You can't turn around and go buy a package of bees and expect to be treatment free. So the answer that some throw out there is, well, you should have never bought a package. You should have bought a nucleus hive or something. You should have bought your bees from somebody who was treatment free, and you continue that process. Well, every hive is different. There is not one single hive that has an identical out there. In a lot of different ways. And we're just going to say that from the base genetics of the queen herself, her offspring, as well as, how they handle mites. So there's a lot of research to do to get to the point of being treatment free, in my opinion. But let's kind of go back from this. Treatment free is the goal. That's where we all would like to be. Some people have a purpose in saying that they want to be treatment free, because they want their bees to work it out so they have the strongest genetics that they could possibly have, so that the bees can work it out for themselves. I know many beekeepers who will say if they can't handle the viruses, the mites, the whatevers, that I don't want them in my hive anyway. Well, here's where I have a luxury of an experience. I'm not the only one out here, but this is my luxury. I have been down, I live in North Alabama. I feel that my area is completely flooded with Italian genetics from bees that have come off of pollination, because we have a local bee supplier who sells packages every year. And we're talking, 2 or 3 pallets full of bees. Then you go to Birmingham, and there's 2 or 3 different suppliers down there that sell 2 or 3 pallets full of bees. So there's a lot of influx of lesser genetic bees that come into my area. What I was calling about my luxury is the fact that I get to travel to New Orleans, down there with JP and Schawee 2 or 3 times a year. In doing such, I actually get to collect swarms, which I will bring back to my location. I abide by the state law saying that I'm not going down there bringing comb back in and doing that. That's my regulation, is that I can't bring comb into the state, and I abide by that. Now, that being said, I have brought back multiple genetics of bees from that location, and I have seen variances in how those bees have survived with no issues in Shawee's yard with no treatments, and he's very successful. But those same bees do not survive without treatments in my yard. Now, where do you think that comes from?
Well, environmental issues always got, everything has a different. I mean, everywhere you go, you've got a different. You can take a set of bees. I always liken it when I do presentations and classes. I like it to say it this way. I'm not a little fella. I'm from South Florida, and back in my day, not now, but back in my day, I was kind of able to hold my own pretty well. And I'll use the number 20 just because it sounds cool. But, I used to say, I could take 5 guys on, by myself. I was tough enough that I could handle 5 guys at any one given time. And this is a while back. But now if somebody comes up to me and I go to one place and it ain't nothing but a bunch of, guys that don't really do a lot but sit on bar stools, I might be able to handle 10 of them, but then I go down to the rough and ready place where they're all thugs and, that's all they do is crackheads all day long. I might have to just go one-on-one with some of those guys. Each place I go to is going to have different environment, different potential, threats, different levels of threats, even though I stay the same. You take me from one to the next place, I have to respond differently to those in different environments,
I understand that. See, so,
well, I can't believe nobody jumped on any of that. We are becoming so domesticated right now.
We jump. Go ahead, Froggy. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, way out, because we know how many guys you can handle.
Now, see, nobody else even. It must be a firefighter thing. You all some strange ducks, man. Years of living with other men for so long, and 24 hours at a time. Y'all get that bored? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah. See how y'all get cooped up in one place for too long.
Yeah, don't go lying about it now, Andy. Just go ahead and tell them straight. No, but see, this very thing, and at the end of this very thing ended up really making me put thought into what is the problem. I mean, when I take and I've got bees that I bring back to this, from one location to another, completely different environment. And the basic understanding of the environment is where you're down there with Schawee, they have got a longer warm spell from the start of spring to the, till fall, close to winter. Their temperatures are a lot warmer. The midsummer heat is so much more than what I experience where I'm at. So when I sit there and I started looking at those, just that single factor of environmental temperatures, because they've got pretty much, except for, the addition of maybe tallow trees, we pretty much have the same forage. We have so many similarities, but what were the differences in his area versus mine? The only two things that I came up with was the higher temperatures that he experiences than what I do, as well as the fact of they have a lot more wild feral colonies per se in their area than what I do. So, there's something that they have that helps bees survive the winters better than me. So I turned around and I had to start figuring out, how do I need to manage bees from their location in mine? Wanting to go down the road of treatment free. I admit this straight out of the gate. My thought process of treatment free was put the bees in there, give them space, collect honey. If they die, well, then they were inferior genetics anyway, and that was that. And that was my management process. And then all of a sudden winter comes through and you're going out there somewhere around, for me, I can check bees in January because it'll be 65 degrees in the middle of the day. And, I can do that. And I go out there and I check a hive in January and I've got, what's that one thing we all find? That one frame of bees that are the size of a little donut and they got their head stuck in the hole. And what was wrong? Why did these bees, dwindle off and die? And then I started having this, I learned more about what ails the bees, what destroys these colonies. And when you start realizing how many things are coming at these bees in your particular location, then you have got to decide, do I want to keep having to catch swarms every year, buy packages of bees, buy a nuke from somebody's split or whatever, and rebuild my colonies, and that stuff gets old. So you have to figure out, how can I support the genetics of my hive so they can get to a point where they can deal with the problems on their own, be successful at it, and actually thrive instead of just saying barely surviving or dying. And that's the hardest decision in my book for any beekeeper to make, because you can't do in your yard, in your location, and I don't care if you live a mile from me, you still cannot do everything the same way I do and think that you're going to be successful, or you're successful and I'm not, because every hive is different. And if you look at it just like each one of your kids are different, you will have to, spank your kid, one of the kids, because they're just little hellions, where your other one is just a little angel, and you don't know why.
You sound as if you speak from experience, Yappy.
Yeah, with two queens and a drone running around in my house, I can tell you I'm speaking from experience on that one.
But just wait till the drone gets bigger.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've got the two queens and one drone. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll take the drone any day, especially now that they're all older in their teens. Tell you right now, the two queens and the teens, nope, give me the boy any day of it. I'll hang out with him all day long. The other ones.
So Yappy, were you the hellion Yappy or the angel?
You know what? That's the funny thing. My parents said I was probably one of the easiest kids that was ever made to raise. I could entertain myself. Give me a box of Hot Wheels cars, and I'd sit in my room just as quiet as could be. Never got suspended from school. I've turned around and made it my goal in life to make up for everything I didn't do as a child. But I just want to express in the thought process that if you want to be treatment free, make it your goal. Yes. Learn how to make strong hives. Learn how to watch for these problems. One of the bigger things, there's probably a majority of anybody that listens to this podcast that's within the first couple of years of beekeeping that understands what nosema is, much less the two different types of nosema, or even how to test for it. And now we're under a different problem where even if you did get it tested for, can you actually treat it? That's one of the issues faced in Alabama right now. When they turn around, what was the oh Lord, you're going to have to help me on this one because my brain's fried from having the new drone. What's the powder stuff that you mix in with the sugar water to treat nosema? Come on now.
No, I'm looking at it, trying to think of it.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Starts with a T.
Terramycin?
Terramycin.
There you go.
Yes. Okay. The deal is, I was fixing to say Gardasil. Oh God! Now all you guy beekeepers out there are going to understand that one. But if you've got any teenage daughters in your house, you understand what Gardasil is, and don't even go down that road. But bottom line is that the terramycin is now federally regulated, so you can't go to Tractor Supply and buy it anymore. So in the state of Alabama, the rule is you've got to get a prescription from your veterinarian. And then turn around and who's going to fill it? The veterinarian. Well, I actually talked to my vet about it the other day. I said, "Are you aware of this new to-do?" And she said, "I've never heard of it." And I said, "Well, because of our relationship," I said, I'm going to send a bunch of beekeepers to you. You might want to turn around and actually start carrying this stuff because it has to be provided. You have to get it from a vet. And, so she's doing her research and talking to Auburn University and their people and blah, 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 so that she's, going down the right road with it. But, nosema is actually something that's completely treatable, even without terramycin, if you do it right. And that's something that for, you guys that are out there listening, look it up. All right. Look up nosema. We got Nosema apis, we got Nosema serrana, and a lot of it has to do with nutrition. One factor is you can requeen. If it's a very high spore count, you can turn around and treat with the terramycin. There is one part of a management process of your beehives that you need to understand so you can make the right decision on whether or not you're going to add a treatment to deal with the problem, or if you let them die and start over.
Well, I think you're right on that, especially when you talk about it being a process, and we're talking about management again, because the way I approach it is you start off with bees, and now I get bees from walls and, trees, kind of like you guys, you pick them up out of as rescues or removals, relocations. Sometimes they come from pristine, beautiful comb and just great, just moved in, and you could tell they're doing well in this. Other times you get them out of walls and holes and basements and different places, and the comb is just nasty, and you can tell that there have been problems that they've had, like you open the wall up and you got more small hive beetle crawl out than you do bees, it can get really funky in some of them removals. And going back to my South Omaha boy kind of example, I might be that tough where I could take 5 guys on in a rumble, a fight, Anthony, a fight. But if I walk into one of those bars and 20 guys jump me, I don't care how tough I am, I'm going to get my butt whooped. Hopefully my Beehooligan buddies are going to come in and rescue, and they're going to grab a bunch of them guys off. But after I've been fighting for, so long, I'm not going to be able to still take on 5 guys at once anymore. You're going to have to leave me just like one-on-one or get rid of them all for me so I can recuperate and build back up. And it's the same thing with the bees. Once them bees have been getting it handed to them in that nasty old colony, sometimes we have to help them out. We have to take them out of that bad situation. Give them the arm, help them along a little bit, give them some stuff they need, bring them the chicken soup, or some manure that'll cure the hangover or whatever it is. But we have to do some things for them. And then we watch them. And as we back off and move, we watch the bees and let them tell us how much more help they need. Eventually, again, working to the goal of they don't need anything. They tell us, go away, you're in the way, we can do this without you and whatever it is you want to try and throw in here. That's to me the goal. But sometimes you have colonies that get beat down by life, by the environment, by situation, circumstances, whatever. We have to be able to start a process of maybe we're adding something and doing something for the bees and then weaning them off of it slowly, letting them show us, and there's going to be colonies where, they're not going to wean. They're going to want to be carried along. That goes, I think, Schawee, we used to call those welfare bees. They want to be taken care of. And there's nothing you can do about that. That's a point where a beekeeper's got to say, no, I'm going to keep treating them and doing whatever, or that no treatment or, organic or whatever you want to call it is going to say, you know what, natural selection would have pulled you out a long time ago. I delayed the process and you ain't even making an effort. Been nice knowing you.
How about this? Well, let me throw this little item. Why do we let a hive completely die out before we actually, decide to change the problem? If there's a genetic problem, why do we have to go and say, well, we're just going to let winter weed them out? One thing that I noticed the last 2 years in my fall production is the fact that we've had very dry winters, or falls. I mean, almost drought condition problems. Well, people are letting bees die in the name of bad genetics, and they don't realize that their bees are starving to death.
Right.
And my bees had 100 pounds of honey sitting on top of them, 2 full supers. They were doing great. Well, if there's one person that's listening to this that picks up on this, thank you. Bees don't survive on honey. They survive on pollen, the proteins. And you can literally starve a hive to death with no protein in there and all the honey in the world. Now, whether or not that was actual honey honey nectars that they gathered to make that honey, or you never harvested, or guess what? You put 25 gallons of sugar water on them, and they turned around and went and packed all that in because new beekeepers feed like mad. Well, they've got all this honey in the world. Yeah, that's great to have. They need that. But they also need the proteins. And when they don't have those proteins, they're going to die. And now all of a sudden you turn around and you open up that hive in the first of spring and they're dead. And you go, well, crappy genetics. I'm glad I got rid of them, because I'm treatment free.
Well, I mean, that's part of that inspection. That's part of that IPM. When you're going in every, whatever, time frame you're going in, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever your inspection time frame is, those are all kinds of things you should be looking for when you're there. If you're not inspecting and keeping an eye out for forage, for storage, for pests, I mean, all of that's something, it should be just part of your regular routine. So like you say, if somebody's just waiting until certain time to look for this or look for that, that's part of the problem already, because those things that are preventable because they should have been doing it ahead of time, 3, 4, or 5 months ahead. Right. But on the other hand, you've got some situations where, you talk about the pollen. The pollen is actually more important for the brood, because once bees reach about 18 days of age or so, the research shows they typically tend to stick more towards the carbohydrates, the adults. It's the younger bees, sometimes the queen and the larva, the brood, that really focus on the pollen. And what you're doing is you're starving the babies out. And the babies, once you get a queen that starts laying really well in the winter, early winter, or even late winter, she'll start building that brood up. And that's where the pollen's necessary. All those bees that are still left over, they have to be replenished. And if you're not replenishing them, you're starving the next wave of the colony out. And you kill the colony out because you never let them get past, age whatever, they had no food. Once they hit,
right,
that adult age where they almost only stick to the carbs, you got this great bunch of adult bees, but you have no next wave, next generation. And so you're killing them that ways. And that's preventable. That is entirely 100% preventable. It's just people don't look for it, because that's not something that is focused on a lot. People think, like you said, oh, it's all about the honey, but they don't stop to think that queen will still lay eggs to a certain degree for up until December. depending on your region. And and like you guys, Schawee, I can only imagine with your guys' temperatures, she almost never stops laying. She might dwindle down to, much less than normal in the winter, but I bet you she's still laying 200, 300, 500 eggs a day at the slow points, and then ramps it up coming out of into early spring or late winter, and then really starts building it up again back then. So they never always quit laying entirely. And I think that's just kind of a myth that's been built up in a lot of people, that they're not laying and there's not a need at all, except for honey. And that's patently, not true. Don't jump all in at once, guys. Surprise.
Hey.
What do you think, Schawee? Am I on the right track there or what?
Yeah, y'all both are.
Jump in. This is not just the Yappy and Big Bear show.
Well, I was just listening to see what y'all, what y'all were talking about.
You are the guru. You are the beekeeping, the queen.
Yappy I'm 100% treatment free. And do I let hive die without helping them out? Yes, in a way. But if you're getting a weak hive, do I build them up by giving them brood and stuff? Yeah. I requeen all my bees, swarms, everything, with my genetic queens. And I found that I have less trouble than leaving. Let's say if I get a swarm and just set them up and just leave them, and they might run into mite problems or something like that. But I just go ahead and requeen all my stuff, but that's what I do. I don't, if somebody wants to treat, I don't have, I won't befriend you or anything like that. It's what you want. And what you can afford to do. Can I afford to lose a few hives? Yes. Some people that buy hives and nukes or whatever, packages, and they're a 2 or 3 hive person. Well, if you're having trouble and you don't want to spend no more money on buying bees, well, you better treat to sale. That's my belief. But do I fuss at people for treating? No. Do I fuss at people for not treating? No. It's your preference, what you want accomplished out of your situation. And like Yappy said, everybody's situation is different. Exactly. My situation can be a little different from JP's, and it's definitely different from yours and Yappy.
See, I think it's a lot about what's going to be successful. What makes me successful? I have different goals, objectives. I have a different environment. I have all of these different things, different variables for my bees and what I consider success from you. So what you do and what I do shouldn't be the same, because I doubt we have entirely the same objectives, the same goals, or the same environment. When you add all that together, I'm going to have to do some things you may not even consider doing, because you're not faced with that to make you successful the way I want to be successful. It's not successful. Isn't just. Yeah, go ahead.
It don't come overnight experience.
Nope.
Even a 5-year beekeeper lacks the experience to really know what can be done to a hive. I can go in a hive and a troubled hive and see what's going on and find a problem with it, and just watch it and you learn from it, but you got to spend a lot of time in your bee yard too.
Yeah.
Which I do. And a lot of times I have trouble with the ones I don't requeen.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that right now and trying to figure out, is it the genetics of the queen from the one that's not doing good to the one I put in?
Yeah.
Because I'll put in and it changes, I know earlier y'all were talking about drone comb and stuff like that. You know, a lot of people use that in treatment free. You know, pull out the cap drone frame and freeze it and stuff like that, and, you know, to break the mite cycle and stuff. But, you know, Yappy used acylic acid. Alic acid. What you said that, Yappy?
Yep. You got any pronunciation advice on that one?
Oxalic acid.
Oxalic acid.
Yes, there's an A in it, not an. Yeah, it's oxalic.
You know.
Thank you very much, Randy Oliver, for the clarification.
Well, I didn't want to pronounce it wrong, and then you get on me for that, you know. So I just wanted to make sure. But I mean, you know, it what floats your boat. That's the way I look at it. If you need to treat to have your bees survive, then treat. You know, if you don't want to become if you want to become a treatment-free beekeeper, well, and you're just starting out, just have a deep wallet, because I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be hard to get it to where, you know, you can run it like that, because you're gonna lose hives. When I first started and stuff, we were losing hives and stuff, you know, but I can replace them, you know, with cutouts and stuff. If you don't have that, then, you know, or a deep pocket, then I would suggest you do what you can to save your bees. And if that means treating, well, you treat, you know, because it can get expensive.
Hey, Antnee, our resident newbie. You got any comments, questions, suggestions, input from the newbie side?
Sorry, I was taking you off mute. Yeah, there were a couple things. Because I think when I'm 3 weeks in, I'm 3 weeks in now. And you say new beekeepers feed crazy or over. I don't know. You didn't say overfeed, Yappy, but it was because I only fed once. Like when I first got them, I did one set of feeders. They didn't finish either one of them off, you know, and in the 2 hives. So I was kind of just in keeping with what I've been told, like letting the bees be bees. They don't have people out in the.
Well, the thing you got to look at too, Antnee, is do y'all have a flow going on too? Because they tend to leave the sugar water alone and rather go out and get it and to take the sugar water. So,
okay,
you know, if they have a flow going on, I wouldn't worry about feed. You know, because a lot of times they won't take the feed. Maybe that's why they never finished it.
Well, yeah, and that was my thought, and why I haven't put them back on feeders.
Because they prefer to get it than you know.
Right. Yeah, I'm seeing expansion, new comb drawn. It's interesting because with my I've got 2 hives. One was done with foundation, one was foundationless, and just watching the different ways, like the foundationless one, you know, other than the frames of bees I put in, it's watching it grow horizontally or populate horizontally before they start drawing comb up top. You know, because when I first, each time I open it, it's like you expect to see kind of the same thing. Well, it's been nice seeing the difference, because where there's already foundation done, they pretty much started going straight up over the top and haven't filled out the bottom box. So, although one thing I did notice, the one that was foundationless, that's also the ones where I had ants on the outside. And well, I came back again last night and there was a ton of ants on the outside. But once I removed the box, there was some new comb being drawn, but there were no ants at all in the box or in my brood box.
Yeah.
So they're not.
Yeah, as long as they're not getting in, I don't worry about it. I have 2 hives right now with the red ant. The nest is up against it and halfway up the side of the box, and they don't bother the bees at all. You know, but those hives, I'm gonna move them. That's just hives in my backyard. I just placed down on not say a cinder block. It's a concrete block, but it ain't but like 4 inches off the ground. You know, but they don't bother the bees. You know.
Well, so
Yeah, and hey, when we say flow, okay, this is going to be it's a newbie question, so I really don't care. Evidence of a flow going on or heavy flow going on that when you say heavy flow, you're talking pollen flow,
nectar flow. They're bringing in pollen. They should be bringing in both.
Well, see, and that's because I was focusing on the pollen because I didn't see a lot of pollen being brought back to either of the colonies.
You can. To me, one of the first signs of a nectar flow is you'll start to see comb drawn.
Yeah, if they're drawing comb, you got a nectar flow.
Okay, so all right, and I'm confusing nectar flow, pollen count, and allergy. Yeah, I'm throwing. Okay, got it.
Now they'll bring in nectar more than pollen. When the flow is kicking in, they're gonna have their stores of pollen in there. I mean, all you have to do is look and see if you see little pollen baskets on the bees and stuff like that. They're good. And you get a lot of bees flying. That's another sign that that the flow is kicked in. And they're gonna be drawing and building quick.
Yep, they definitely are drawing. I almost learned. I flipped one of the frames and I did the two-handed finger thumb, flip the frame upside down, to inspect both sides. And I almost lost part of the comb on the foundationless frame. Wasn't thinking. It just starts to it goes off center.
Yeah, foundationless, it's not a front to back, it's an end to end flip rather.
Yeah. Now, once they attach it at the bottom.
See, I didn't know that, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah. It's different from a foundation.
Yep, I almost learned the hard way.
Sometimes that's the best.
Yeah, there's a wacky way to flip that frame.
Yeah. A wacky
there's
good way.
There's a wacky way that you actually. Yes, well, for you it would be. You almost like when you pull that frame up, you're turning it as well as flipping it, almost like you're trying to turn around and turn your coat around, or you're putting on your Superman cape. It's this motion, where you're turning it and flipping it in one motion. So where all of a sudden it's upside down and you're like, how the heck did I do that? There's no way I could describe how to do that other than it's almost like you're trying to put a cape on without throwing that thing over your shoulder.
Totally understand that. Gotcha.
Been there, done that one, haven't you? Okay.
But Anthony, you only do that. You only do that, Anthony, with the foundation. Don't do it with the foundation.
What, the Superman cape?
Yeah, when you flip it upside down, it's going to break on you.
Right.
If it's not attached.
Yeah.
If it's not attached all the way, it's going to break on you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
By golly, fellas, it's been an hour. We have been in here a whole hour. I think we've had all kinds of fun. Parting shots, Antnee. We're still with you, so we'll give you the first parting shot. Or not.
Screen's acting funny. Yeah. No, I'll take it. I'm here, Just, like I said, no, I love these conversations because as I'm going through it real time and as our listeners are, hearing it, it's like I said, you get reminders and I get to know what I need to do right now and, really appreciate it and really appreciate, all the input from you guys. Just to let you know, Tony, hey, we got your back. If you're taking on 20 dudes, 20 guys in a fight, I got your back. And I guarantee when I think it's time for you to seek treatment, I'll be the first one to say so.
Now we're getting ambiguous on the word treatment. Been there before. Yappy, what you got, brother?
Nothing, but I actually, my little brain was going, Anthony, you nailed it. Schawee and I've decided that if we're all hanging out at the bar together and Big Bear decides he's going to take on 20 guys, we're going to actually sit back and just, like, bartender, get us another beer because we're going to watch this one for a few minutes. We're not going to let you totally get your butt whooped, but we're probably going to enjoy it for the first 5 minutes.
Heck yeah, I've had lots of folks do that with me.
But I'm just we're gonna no more. Well, we probably got an extra 2 or 3 minutes to enjoy it when Superman Anthony turns around and does that little twist and throws his cape on and says, "Dun dun! Here I come, Big Bear! I'm coming to save you." Me and Schawee just say, "Hey, we got another 2 or 3 minutes of this one. Go ahead and give me another beer." Yeah, you go get him, Two Toes. I appreciate it, guys. Hey, no, really, seriously, I know we're short on time, but all you new guys out there wanting to go beat treatment free, then I support you 100%. Good luck with it. And just make sure you've got enough understanding and education to accomplish that. Don't just go down the I'm not going to treat anything and whatever happens, happens. Have a plan. Thank you very much.
Oh, there you go. Schawee, what you got, brother?
All right, I'm going to be drinking some beers and watching y'all take on 20 people, or watching you. And then when Antnee get involved in it, I'm going to still drink another beer and see. And then maybe Yappy will get into it. But if I got to get into it, partner, I'm not coming in with my fist. I can't afford to
He's bringing out the hardware.
Yes, indeed. I don't believe in fighting, Now, if they want to fight me, I can't afford to get hit because I'll bleed to death inside.
Oh,
so, so I'll let them know. I'll let them know first. Now, if they still want to fight me, then I'm going to have to do what I have to do. But it would be fun to watch you take 20 guys on them.
All right.
Maybe back in the day you might have been able to handle it, but I don't think right now.
Oh gosh, man, I was lucky to handle 5 at one time back then, and even then it got dubious. Oh, all right, guys, I'm worn out just thinking about it. So I appreciate you guys coming back and hanging out with us again. Appreciate everybody who's been listening. I noticed that we're hitting some really good numbers, guys. A lot of folks are finally, I think, starting to realize we're out here doing our little thing, and we're getting more downloads and listens. So I'd like to thank everybody out there who is listening, and spread the word. And hey, if we can't inform you, at least we can hopefully entertain you. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, everybody, and y'all have a good one for this week, and catch us next week. Remember, be smart.